In the pantheon of legendary groups within anime universes, the 7 Warlords from One Piece and the Espada from Bleach stand out as epitomes of power, with each group commanding respect and fear within their individual series, as they signify a near pinnacle of strength and influence when it comes to their position on the scale relative to the average Joe of the verse. So now the question is, who would win if these two factions were to engage in an all-out fight? Would the Espada claim victory due to their overwhelming power and killer mentalities? Or would the Warlords' combination of strength, speed, and incredible abilities be enough to get them the win? Well, in this video, me and my good friend Rogue will be looking at both the 9 Espada and the original 7 Warlords' individual stats such as attack potency, durability, speed, and hacks to determine which of these two groups wins and why. Starting off with the Warlord's attack potency, the majority of the group scales around the city level range, whether it be Crocodile with his sandstorms, Gecko Moria with his island splitting punches, or Kuma with his Ura shock. Additionally, both Jinbei and Boa Hancock would be around this level, as they were displayed to be as strong as and stronger than the same Gear 2 Luffy who was able to deal severe damage to Moria with only a few hits, granting both Boa and Jinbei city level attack potency at the very least via scaling. Moving past the lower tier Warlord's attack potency though, we can now talk about the heavenly demon himself, Don Quixote Doflamingo, who was able to rival Luffy's King Kong gun with just 15 strings of his birdcage, with this attack being calculated to have a kinetic energy yield equal to around 154 gigatons of TNT, which would grant both Gear 4 Luffy and Awakened Dofi large island level attack potency. Skipping past Dofi, the last Warlord we need to talk about is Mihawk, who literally carries the Warlord scaling on his back as he completely outclasses his contemporaries. Which shouldn't be a shock at all considering he's stated to be the world's strongest swordsman, which would at the very least put him on par with the likes of Shanks, who Kaido views as someone on par with himself and other great pirates such as Prime Whitebeard and Roger. Meaning Mihawk would scale defeats such as Luffy and Kaido's Sky Split, as well as their flaming Bagua and Bajrang gun clash, which have been scaled at country and continental level respectively, slotting Mihawk somewhere in the continental to country level tier in terms of attack potency. To add on to this even further, you could hypothetically stretch Mihawk's AP all the way into the planet to star level range via scaling him to Whitebeard, who is stated to have the power to destroy the world. However, this meta is highly debatable and far less consistent than my prior AP scaling, which is why I would err on the side of caution when attempting to use it. As for the Warlord's speed though, like with attack potency, some Warlords are slower than others, so we'll go ahead and scale speed in order of slowest to fastest, meaning we'll be starting off with Crocodile, who would cap at hypersonic in terms of speed during his time as a Warlord, since the same Alabasta Luffy that was shown tagging him on multiple occasions was at best able to fight at Mach 37 during this period of the manga, scaling off Whiskey Peak Zoro, making Crocodile the slowest Warlord on our list. Moving along though, our next few Warlords, Boa, Kuma, Jinbei, Doflamingo, and Moria all scale to around the same level in terms of speed, as all of these characters would be nearly as fast as well as faster than Gear 2 Luffy post Enies Lobby, who was at least 5 times faster than Lightning when accounting for his Gear 2 multipliers and upscaling from the Skypiea Zoro calc, which would mean all of the Warlords would be capable of fighting at Mach 6410, slotting them in the massively hypersonic tier in terms of combat speed. Last but not least for the Warlord speed though, we again have Mihawk, who has pretty straightforward speed scaling since, like I mentioned earlier, he would just upscale from the likes of other swordsmen like Shanks and Rayleigh, who were both able to tag and blitz Kizaru, who is stated to attack and move at the speed of light, which would put Mihawk's combat speed at a little over FTL, which is backed up by multiple calcs of Kizaru being tagged by our aforementioned swordsmen. Also, before anyone mentions this in the comment section, I'm well aware of the massively faster than light One Piece speed meta. However, as I've pointed out many times on this channel, this method of scaling is highly flawed due to its basis just being calc stacking, which for those of you who don't know is just a practice of using misinterpreted multipliers and statements to scale a character's stats infinitely upwards, which is the definition of inconsistent considering you can use this method of scaling on any long-running manga series to get insanely inflated results. But with the Warlords speed out of the way, we can now transition into abilities, which I will be going through in chronological order of each Warlord's first appearance for simplicity's sake. Meaning we'll be picking up right where we left off with Mihawk, who via his relativity to Shanks should be a master of all three forms of Haki and their advanced variants, giving him durability negation through advanced conquerors and armament Haki, as well as some of the craziest precognition we've ever seen in manga via Future Sight. Progressing forward, the next Warlord we need to talk about is Crocodile, who for those of you who don't already know ate the Sand fruit, which is a Logia type devil fruit that grants him the ability to generate, manipulate, and become sand, which not only makes Croc virtually untouchable to non-Haki and water users, but it also grants him additional abilities such as moisture absorption, environmental decay, and sandstorm creation, which are all extremely versatile abilities to have in a versus matchup. And before I forget to mention, this Crocodile is also equipped with a poisonous hook that is literally attached to him at all times, giving him another way of negating conventional durability alongside his dehydration ability. After Crocodile though, the next Warlord's abilities we need to go over are Doflamingos, which he got from eating the String fruit, a Paramecia type devil fruit that grants him the ability to generate and control razor thin strings that can be used in a variety of ways, such as severing and cutting through matter, human puppetry, flight, and even internal organ repair. Additionally, upon awakening, the fruit's power allows for Doflamingo to transmutate his surrounding area like the ground and the buildings into strings, which can then be utilized to create much stronger attacks and defenses that can be further amplified with armament Haki. On top of his already impressive devil fruit powers, Doflamingo is also a confirmed user of all three forms of Haki, which grants him the additional abilities of stat amplification, precognition, and intimidation into submission via armament, observation, and conqueror's Haki respectively. Following Doflamingo's abilities though are Kuma's, which he gained from eating the Pawpaw fruit, a Paramecia type devil fruit that gives him the ability to push away practically anything he touches at extremely high speeds, which includes both tangible materials such as people and objects as well as intangible materials such as air, offering Kuma an incredible advantage in battle, as not only is he able to deflect any physical attacks that pose a threat to him, but he's also able to harness these abilities to pull off offensive maneuvers such as weaponizing the air to create shockwaves of varying sizes and power. On top of these already busted combative abilities though, the fruit's power can alternatively be used to BFR opponents if need be, by repelling them to extremely distant areas, which is still technically a win con. That's not all for Kuma's hacks though, as on top of being a paw human, he's also a super enhanced cyborg with incredible durability and endurance, which can also shoot fucking lasers that are stated to be exactly the same as Kizaru's light beams. But with Kuma's abilities out of the way, we can now move on to Gecko Moria's, which he gained from eating the Shadow fruit, a Paramecia type devil fruit that allows for the user to manifest and control shadows of living creatures, including his own as a tangible form, which he can then subsequently consume to enhance his own strength, as we see on Thriller Bark, amping him to a completely different level than normal. Skipping past Moria, the second to last Warlord's abilities we have to go over are Boa Hancock's, whose main abilities stem from her consuming the Paramecia type Love fruit, which gives her the power to turn anyone who feels love, lust, or adoration towards her into stone, which she can then easily smash with her impressive physical abilities. Also, just like Dofi, Boa is a confirmed user of armament, observation, and conqueror's Haki, giving her stat amplification, precognition, and fear hacks respectively. Moving on from Boa, the final Warlord's abilities we need to discuss are Jinbei's, and unlike mostly every other Warlord, Jinbei did not consume a devil fruit and is instead reliant on his proficiency in the practice of Fishman Karate, which allows for Jinbei to weaponize the water in the atmosphere to attack water inside every living thing, giving Jinbei durability negation on top of the standard New World abilities of armament and observation Haki, which I've already explained when going over Boa and Dofi. But with the Warlords completely scaled, we can now transition into the Espada scaling, which Rogue will be going over.
When looking at the attack potency of the Espada, the top 10 ranked and most powerful Arrancar, they each individually scaled to the destruction of Las Noches with the Gran Rey Cerro, with the more lower ranked Espada being able to destroy it entirely by just going into Resurrection. These characters would naturally include Okiora, Haribel, Barbagon, Stark, and Yami. The size of Las Noches is still debated about to this day. Unironically, there's certain Calcs that get it to Continental using Nell's statement, knowing it would take at least 6 days to walk around all of Las Noches and not just the entrance to it. Gran Rey Cerros being consistently portrayed as the strongest Cerro in Bleach, being so dense that it distorts space, yielding around 2 petatons of TNT, due to Cerros consistently being portrayed to vaporize whatever it's fired at, leaving huge clouds of smoke that rise around whatever it vaporizes, which would influence the overall yield of all the energy from the explosion. Then there's the argument that the blue sky Aizen created, spanning all of Las Noches, due to the Hyogyoku, contains an actual star. A star is shown on various occasions, and it's also mentioned in the Nestle Tonight novel as well. If you do agree with this, that would mean Las Noches is bigger on the inside than it is the outside. We do know that pocket dimensions aren't really a foreign concept in Bleach. Aizen created one for each Espada, and there are characters like Yukio who can make pocket dimensions as well, with one of them being shown to have a distant star in the background. Assuming that the radius between Las Noches and the star is identical to the distance between our real-life Earth and the Sun, the overall yield would be 10 to the 44 joules, or large star level, being influenced by the GBE of Las Noches, the radius of the Gran Rey Cerros explosion, and the radius of the inside of Las Noches. Abilities worthy of mentioning besides the general soul crush and durability negation these characters have, given that they themselves are made of spiritual matter and fight akin to that of soul reapers who attack the soul directly, is Xyloporo's ability to transfer damage with his voodoo doll, Stark's ability to fire thousands of Cerros at once that can just overwhelm the opposition, Baragon's Synesis that can create this field that dilates time inside of it and can age whatever he physically comes in contact with, and Zamari's ability to control the opposition's body through marking it with his eyes. The speed of the Espada is relatively easy to cover rather than their attack potency, in which all members in base are at the least light speed, via scaling off of Ardenyeto being able to react to and dodge sunlight during his pitch with Rukia. Whether you think it's artificial or not doesn't really matter, as sunlight is composed of photons that travel at a constant speed of 186,282 miles per second in a vacuum-like space. And we do know that resurrections and Bankai are similar multipliers in nature for those with releases attributed to physical stats, so characters like Grimmjow, Noritora, and Ulquiorra are granted this type of multiplier, meaning they'll be 10 times faster than they were in base for combat and reaction speeds. Ulquiorra, which I'm pretty sure everyone knows by now, was the only one during the saga to show a second release in his clash against Vastalorde Ichigo, adding another 10 times multiplier to his physicals, which is an overall 100 times increase in combat and reaction speeds when compared to his base physical stats. So if you want to settle for a more grounded interpretation, each Espada would be pretty deep into the Continental tier with just a Gran Rey Cerro, and those with resurrections tied to their physical stats upscale 10 times off of that, getting into multi-continental, with Ulquiorra upscaling 10 times off of that. And the same would apply to the large star level line of scaling, upscaling 10 times off of that, and Ulquiorra upscaling 10 times off of that.
So when analyzing just how a matchup between the Espada and Warlords would go, we first have to establish the fact that most of the Warlords are honestly just fodder in this matchup, since at the lowest end all of the Espada are consistently at least continental to star level in terms of attack potency, while being light speed in terms of combat speed at the lowest end as well. Whereas most of the Warlords cap it around the city to island level range in terms of AP and are massively hypersonic without wank, with the heaviest hitter of the group being Mihawk, who to his credit also has continental to star level attack potency with FTL scaling. However, the problem that Mihawk is going to be facing isn't going to be his own individual strength, but rather the fact that he's going to be up against 9 opponents that are at least as strong as him in base and 10 to 100 times stronger in their resurrections in the case of Grimmjow, Haribol, Noritora, and Ulquiorra. So to be honest, if we're talking standard scaling wise, the Warlords get absolutely fucking dog walked, but if we're talking about equal stats, then things completely change, since no offense to the Espada, but their abilities are kinda lackluster in comparison to the Warlords, who just have an insane amount of hacks and range with their Devil Fruits and Haki, contributing to the reason why I think they would definitely get a win against the Espada if stats were equalized. Which I think is a nice middle ground conclusion that both Bleach and One Piece fans can reach, and something both me and Rogue agree on after doing extensive research on both groups and the topic. Speaking of Rogue though, I would like to quickly thank him for taking the time to cover the Espada portion of the video, since it wouldn't have been possible without him, so make sure you go sub to Bro's channel after this, since he definitely deserves it. Also, don't forget to leave a like on this video and make sure to subscribe to my channel as well if you enjoy versus battle content like this, as it's a win-win for both of us. With all that being said though guys, I hope you're having a great day wherever you are, and until next time.